Cachamaniacs.
Geo Gearheads.
Welcome to the Geo Gearheads episode 419. I'm Daryl W4 back again with Chris of the Northwest.
Well, hello, Daryl. How are you?
I'm doing very well, and it's one of your favorite shows tonight. It's a randomized show. Are you surprised that I actually am here tonight?
A little bit. I was prepared to do Randomize XCIV all by myself. I love being able to pronounce Roman numerals.
I was half tempted to try to come up with some like fake disguise and, like walk out of the introduction and come back. This is not Daryl.
Daryl, we have such good listeners in the chat that, you know what? If I had to, I would do it again.
We do have an awesome listener and viewer, and it's hard to figure that out. So we'll just call them audience. We have an awesome audience. Our fellow Geo Gearheads are amazing, and we really do appreciate everyone who's watching and listening, and especially our patrons who really make it possible to keep the shows going.
Definitely. You guys are the best. Hands down. There, my hands are down.
My hands are down too. So, all right, let's actually kick this off because we do have a bunch of good and some silliness to talk about today.
What?
First, some silliness from us?
No.
Never. G Nice emailed us. Okay, I'm having a brain fart here. I'm listening to I'm listening to the FTF show, sorry, and hearing I will put it in the show notes. How do I find those show notes? May want to say how to do it on the podcast, since I suspect I'm not the only one who would like the info.
Well, you just have to look at what we're typing. So just hack into our computers, get our browser history, and you'll be able to find exactly what we're doing. Wait, I probably should not suggest that.
Probably not, especially because there's nothing on our computers.
That's true. There's an easier way.
Oh, sorry, you were breaking up. What was that?
Oh, I said there's an easier way. Daryl, why don't you tell them what it is, since I seem to have connection issues?
Well, the easiest way is to go to cachamaniacs.com. which we do mention in the credits every week. But yeah, we probably don't mention it enough up front. So if you go to cachamaniacs.com, you'll find all of our shows and the show notes on that website. But if you want a little bit harder way, you could probably try to figure out how to hack into Google Docs, because that's where we have all of our show notes. Actually, that's where we have our rundowns. So that's a lot more information than you probably need. But it's all of the stuff that we use as we're doing the show, including our little like jibs and points at each other.
Ooh. So here I was heading over there. Now let me find an episode that has some. Here's the FTF show. No, it doesn't have necessarily good show notes.
The randomized ones are the typically heaviest on those links. So tonight's show, head over there to cachamaniacs.com and you will find plenty of links.
Exactly. As you look at here, you know what, Daryl? Hang on. I know how to use this. I am going to screen share for one moment.
Okay.
The Geo Gearheads website. Or I'm sorry, the cachamaniacs.com website. I clicked episode 416, the last randomize. It's the Randomize XCIV. There are 3 I's there. I don't quite know how to pronounce that. But when you look at it, oh, it's the dolphin episode. As you hover over, you will see links pop up. So the links aren't in a different color. You will have to look at that. So, there's also news from geocaching.com on the 2020 celebration events, and that's a clickable link.
Well, they are actually a slightly different color, but the problem is they're like shades of gray.
Mm.
So it's just like a little bit harder to read
color
than the black.
They're all clickable links there. We talked about in the Lego brick sorter made from Lego. You can click there and watch the video of it. So yes, this is the show notes on the website. Click on the episode, you get the full detail, and you can read more. There.
So we could go back to doing it like some of the other shows do, where it's just a list of links. And I've given that some serious thought, mostly because it would save me a lot of time.
Well, it's not a bad thing.
Well, and the way that we've done it in more a prose style was the recommendation back when we got started with this show. That was the best recommendation from Google as to how you wrote your show notes, for optimized search and all that. Now that's no longer the case. So it makes it, I think, easier to read, but not easier to find the information.
Well, that's true. And, podcasts have changed over the years. I heard today that 40% of the US have a smart speaker in their house, and they can listen to podcasts through that, on that. However, whatever verb you use to describe how a smart speaker plays a podcast.
I would just say they play it through the smart speaker. How's that?
Do they play it on the smart speaker? Do they play it because of the smart speaker?
Or through the smart speaker? Yeah.
Well,
and we do have the Alexa app and the Google it's not Google Home anymore, right? Or is it? I've lost track of it. It's Nest Home, isn't it?
No, it's still Google Home, I believe.
Okay. Because they've gone through some name changes, as Google tends to. Yeah. And I thought they changed the name of it. But whatever, the Google Assistant
right
will play our podcast. So
whatever has
either one will do it.
There are multiple things that have the Google Assistant, multiple things that have Alexa.
Very true.
GSM times 2. No, I was not letting a dog off my lap. My dog is 50 pounds. It's not necessarily a lap dog, but it was a little chillier down here than I thought. So I just reached over and grabbed my blanket like an old lady. I have a blanket across my lap. Sonny, let me tell you about the days.
Oh, nice. All right. So our next one is actually a YouTube comment that comes from Sim Rebel. And he says, did Daryl have a TB for this episode? I couldn't find in the wide shot that included it.
And that was last episode.
Yes, it was. And the fact is that we don't always have the wide episode. If you want to drink in those... thank you. The white. Did I say white episode? The white dot for the episode.
Daryl, we've all gained a little weight. I mean, the episodes have gotten wider, but it's not quite what you're saying there.
Is that what it is? But yeah, if you want to drink in all those trackables, you might want to go back to the shows we did around New Year's, both this and I was on Geocaching podcast, because it was quite a bit of discussion there too. So, and it was even a pick on the patron site. So if you head over there, it should be public by now. It was one of those host picks.
Daryl?
Yes?
What you're doing works really well for video. But those who are listening audio only have no idea what you're talking about.
Correct. But that's always been the case.
Okay, then we'll move on.
Yeah. Well, hey, there is another way. If you were a listener years and years ago, you might recall that I do have a Google spreadsheet that tracks all that stuff. And if you're a keen show note observer, you might have found that link, and you can always get them out of that too.
I wonder if you could go to cachemaniacs.com and search for Google spreadsheet. Huh. Well, anyway,
I tried that earlier. It doesn't work.
Oh,
I don't know why it doesn't work, but I would bet if you go to Google and searched for site:/cachemaniacs.com space Google spreadsheets, you could probably find it. As we play the Jeopardy music. Do, 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 do. By the way, GSM times 2 says you should get a lap dog because she'll serve the same purpose.
Well, pretty much.
Oh, and Ian went to...
Work.
Nope. Okay, bummer. Ian went to 7-Eleven and tried to find one. The cashier, the cashier there stared at me like I was crazy. If she had ever seen one. Yeah. If you go to the show notes to the patreon.com and take a look at those host picks, there is a link where you can order it online to get it from 7-Eleven. So there is an alternative to going to your local 7-Eleven store where the cashiers are just dumbfounded.
Daryl, I take that back.
Oh,
You
it did
need a
work?
space between colon and Cachemaniacs. I did site
Really?
colon Cachemaniacs. You did site colon space. And I think it's episode 307.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
There you go. Yeah.
All right. So next one is JRandjuju via the website. My SMS app plays the Mission Impossible theme when I get a new hide notification. I recommend saving a newly published hide to the watch list right away. A few times the hider had the wrong coordinates and the reviewer pulls the hide back. I get an email when the hide is republished. There is no instant notification message the second time.
Oh, interesting.
That is really interesting because it used to. Oh, you know what? No. Sorry. There is an archive notification and there is an unarchive notification. So I think that's what actually happens. I think they're actually archiving and maybe, no, I don't think that is true.
Temporarily disable it and have the same effect.
Well, the temporary disable doesn't unpublish it. Because there is a way that they were doing an unpublish, and I seem to remember a notification for it. You know, I wish I had actually paid closer attention to that message before the show, where I could have actually looked it up. Oh, GSM times 2 says, what? You have a list of trackables that anyone can use to log them? That sounds controversial. And I will say that there's a few of the trackables that have found their way onto Facebook lists.
Mm-hmm.
So you can no longer discover them, because as soon as I find them on a Facebook posting, I do actually lock them, because that to me is cheating. You know, not that you can't post your own, but I don't post any of mine to Facebook.
Right.
So therefore it's a cheat.
Yeah. That's where you can use one of the nice tools to log them all at one time, like log them all or Project GC. Either one of those will do it for you. But yeah, just I'm old fashioned. I want to actually hold it in my hand, unless it's a tattoo, and then that's awkward.
Yeah. There's there's a bunch of people who are like that. I tend not to log unless it's someone I know. If it's shared, like if you were to share a tag with me, I'd go and log that for sure. If it's on the podcast, that I tend to log, because again, it's a more personal interaction. But just the lists on Facebook and stuff, I don't bother with that. But I'll gladly do the discoveries at the events where they'll give you that list, because that makes it so much easier.
Annie from Facebook says discovering trackables means discovering them. Exactly. Yeah.
One of the reasons that I've done the Google Sheet is because it does make it really easy to use tools like Project GC and log them all, because you just select that whole column of the tracking numbers and paste that in somewhere else. But I also have quick links if you want to just discover them as they come up. Mm-hmm. And that was the whole point of the spreadsheet, is to show how you could do those links with the tracking codes right in there.
Nice. Well, should we move on to our next topic, or should I quickly Google something?
Let's go to the next topic before we Google something.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm slightly distracted. Everybody has received a Google. No, I'm sorry. I'm distracted. A geocaching year in review, 2019, a year in review. It's a blog post from geocaching.com. It has an infographic, but it's got a few interesting stats. On one of them is, on average, geocachers found 41 geocaches in 2019.
See, I found that interesting, mostly because it means I'm well above average.
Well, yes. That seems really low to me at 41, but
It does.
at the same time, not every geocacher is as active as we are.
No.
Some are very fair weather geocachers.
But the interesting stat where this really kind of comes to light for me is, well, it's actually a couple of stats, but the next stat kind of really sheds a lot of light on that, is there's 1,622,397 geocaches that found at least one cache this year.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you found a cache, there's 1.6 million of us out there.
Well, there's probably 1.5 million, and then somebody has a lot of sock puppets.
That's entirely possible. That's entirely possible. But the number of found logs, I don't think I even put in here. But there's that's why, is because you've got a lot of those that are single finds. Some of them probably their first find. Some of them find one or two a year. So great, but it makes us feel good because it drives down the numbers.
Yeah.
So we feel less like geocaching podcasters and more like actual cachers.
Hey, if I find more than 41 caches in a year, that puts me above average.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm well above average, even though I failed to find my target of at least one a day. Not one every day, but an average of one a day.
Mm-hmm.
My goal is at least two a day,
mm-hmm.
which I still don't think I'm going to make.
Well, you're just starting out 2020.
I am. And I found one cache this year.
Yay.
We went to the big geocaching event, and neither one of us felt up to caching in the cold air. We were very afraid of aggravating our recent respiratory infections.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we didn't do it. But August 4th was the busiest day with 477,562 finds.
Now, what was going on August 4th? Was that the start of Mystery at the Museum?
No, it was, it might have been the end of Mystery at the Museum.
Okay.
I don't remember what was going on at that point.
I mean,
I think that was like a specific date.
The reason I asked that is I'm thinking, it's a Saturday. I'm wondering if, there was a souvenir of some sort. That's why I was thinking Mystery at the Museum or International Geocaching Day, as I think would be a big one that people would go out on. Yeah,
that's what I was thinking of as well. Ian says it is toward the end of Mystery at the Museum.
Okay. And Limax says he's found twice as many as you have, Daryl.
He has. He's done so much better.
Yeah.
Ian also says that this was before International Geocaching Day.
And that's kind of what I was thinking. When I see August, I think, International Geocaching Day. Everybody wants to get out and get that souvenir. But, well, I'm guessing apparently not. Was
that one of the Mega or Giga events?
Well,
that would kind of make some sense.
A little farther down, I want to talk about something like that, Daryl. Last year, 2019, 390,734 geocaches were placed. So
that's just a few.
Yeah. I mean, that seems really good when you consider, 1.6 million have found at least one geocache, and that let's if we round down to 1.6 million and round up to 400,000, that's 1 in 4 placed a geocache.
Well, and did you catch the other stat here that 22,522 cachers hid their first geocache?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the cachers are not hiding their first cache for sure. But again, the numbers are going to be skewed by the people who have 100 hides that they're doing for some event, or
power trail.
Exactly.
Or
So,
DSM times 2.
yeah. Yes, but the problem is his aren't all new hides. So his don't count in this because this is all new hides.
No, he archives and rehides if he needs to. Refresh the game board.
This is true. Anyway,
So
let's talk about the events though.
There were 42,398 events with 695,853 attendees.
Which is really impressive, especially when you figure in that there's only 54 mega events and 2 gigas.
I was shocked to see 2 gigas. I would assume there was 4 or 5.
You know, the 2 gigas didn't surprise me so much. It was that there's only 54 mega events.
Yeah.
It seems like the megas have been on the rise, and that number actually shocked.
There you are, Daryl. I lost you for a moment. Perhaps you lost me, but you know, I am amazed that there are 54 mega events in a year, because here in the Northwest, I could easily go to 4 or 5 in a summer.
Definitely. And we're going to have a lot more than that.
Well, there you go.
You know, coming in the
one of those will pop over to a giga.
Yeah. So let's actually talk about next year, because there's a few different bits of news that came out, and blog post and the Inside Geocaching HQ podcast, episode 32, talked about it, which was a good episode. So we'll have, again, those links in the show notes at cachemaniacs.com. The merchandise packages are available now for the Geocaching 20th anniversary celebration, which is August 15th, which we all want to go to. So the packages that they talk about that are available, and I've not signed up for mine, and quite frankly, I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to be able to go after all. But the packages...
Daryl? No, Daryl, I'm sorry, that's no longer an option.
I really want to go, but I'm just not... I can get the time this time. I'm just not sure if I can afford the cash. We haven't done any of the research yet, but I just had to do flights for San Francisco to go out to headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford it if it's anything close to this.
Well, you know what? We may be able to work something out that you can stay at my house.
I might have to. Okay. The way that it's going. And I appreciate the offer. Thank you. But the silver package is only $35, and that's the official event t-shirt and the GeoCoin with a matching travel tags. That I thought was pretty cool. It's not a bad price, and you're getting a little bit more than I'd say you get from most of those other packages that include the base, stuff like that.
Right.
The
At $45, you get the gold package.
Yep.
That's everything in the silver package, plus the celebrating 20 years trackable name tag.
So essentially $10 for a trackable name tag.
Mm-hmm.
That's a limited edition one. Again, I think that's a really good value. Then there's the $65 package. So another $20. You'll get the official event pin, patch, sticker, and celebrating the 20 years carry bag. All right. Before we go any further, of those three, price not an option, which one would you want to get?
I'm okay with silver.
See, I want the gold because I like the name tags.
Okay.
But that gold package, the only thing that's mildly interesting in there, because I'm not really into the patches, the stickers, or the pins, is the carry bag. And I do like those carry bags, and I tend to use, I know it's silly, but I tend to use those bags out of the packages like that because they're such nice little easy bags that, I like them and I don't care about them. If that makes sense.
A little bit. I want to go and look at...
All right, so
the 20 years reusable name tag is held securely in place with magnets, plenty of space to add your name and personal touch, engraved tracking code to be discovered.
Now, Ian is saying that the way that HQ has been going with things lately, the travel tag will be a similar design but have its own tracking code. So I think what he's talking about is the...
so you get a geocoin and tag set. You're going to get a good quality geocoin, but you're going to get an aluminum tag that you can send out into the world.
Right. Well, and what I do like about the recent releases of the tags is that they've been doing that with a separate tracking code. So the coin has a code and the tag has a code. It's not a proxy tag.
Exactly. And that's what it says here. I'm looking at the webpage that says both geocoin and tag have their own unique tracking code and unique icon.
Yeah. So I like that one. JSM Times 2 says the pricing seems reasonable, and he's going to get the gold. Ian's going to get the gold. Ian says he likes all the stuff. He wants all the things. And he wants the gold. And she does also want the carry bag. And she also wants to know why there's no path tags.
Ooh. Ouch. Well, because path tags are not an official geocaching.com device.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised, believe it or not, if they have something like that in the store, though. Wet Coaster wants to know why there's no parking.
Because you're in downtown Seattle, there is just no parking, period.
I was going to say, it's Seattle. Parking doesn't exist. You just have to kind of leave your car and hope that it's there when you get back.
No, it's not that bad.
No, I know.
It's not much worse than that either, but or not.
You have to go park your car over in this field, take the coordinates. I hope you don't get it mixed up with someone else's cords.
Yeah, there is plenty of paid parking in Seattle, and when we get a little closer, I'll tell you about some parking apps that work really well. To be able to use your phone to go ahead and pay for the parking spot. Some of those will show you how many spots are in a garage. So as you're driving around, you don't have to say, I'm going to go from here to here to here to here, trying to find a spot.
Yeah.
Well,
I think the interesting thing that they're getting at is White Coaster is also saying that he's getting the parking at Geo Woodstock, which is the VIP parking. Right. It's the whole package. So that's what is really missing is they don't have that top end package that you see at most of the mega events.
Right.
And gigas.
But you're looking at two different types of venues. The
absolutely
events, the Geo Woodstocks, the going caching, use large venues with lots of space, extra parking designed in.
Yeah, and GSM Times 2 is saying, won't the event site have adequate parking? No, it absolutely will, but it's not parking specifically assigned to that venue. This is a convention space, so it's, correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not 100% sure, but as I understand, it's parking garages and that kind of stuff.
So Geo Woodstock is an event space.
That's right. It is.
Yes. That's an event space with adequate parking. The 2020 anniversary celebration in Seattle is in the center of Seattle at the Space Needle. So it's all surrounded by city and buildings, and there are parking lots, but they're all owned by individual companies or, these big parking conglomerates. So being able to get VIP parking really isn't an option.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's going to be plenty of parking, just not the kind of parking they can include in their packages.
Exactly. They're not in control of the parking. It's not a venue where they have a huge parking lot available to them.
So we'll move on, though. In the link to purchase those is going to be in the show notes, and you do have to be present to collect it. They don't ship the packages.
See that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like any other event.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have it shipped. The thing that I found most exciting is the HQ Visitor center tours are only going to be available August 10th through 13th or 17th through 21st. And you have to set up an appointment. They don't have details available yet. They say that's coming soon, but you can go to see the hours and make your reservations at bit.ly/visit20. Again, we'll put that in the show notes. And they also ask to have everyone mark their will attends on GC 896PK. So that's all showing up there. And I did see a number on that too. That's the number that they published was almost 50,000 will attends, I think.
Wow.
Take a look at the webpage, see if it's on there, the cache page. But it is going to be a huge event. And Annie in the chat says that the HQ appointments are going fast. So if you can, get those booked.
Well, I'm looking at the celebration event that GC 896 Papa Kilo, and I'm only seeing, I lost it. I went too far. 3,600 will attend.
3,600?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's definitely not the number that I saw. So I probably saw something for a different event entirely.
And that's August 15th. From 10 in the morning till 5 at night.
Wow, that's going to be so amazing. I'm looking forward to it. Even if I can't go, I really would love to be able to do that one because it does. I really enjoyed the last one,
mm-hmm.
and I'm very excited to be able to share that with other people.
Mm-hmm. And I know the WSGA, the Washington State Geocaching Association, is working hard on the APE mega event. There's another mega event that will follow this one on Sunday, August 16th. And so they're still working out the details on that one, but it's going to be very different, but with the huge crowds, they're, going to have to work out something different.
Yeah. And I look forward to that just because it is going to be different, but I haven't been through the actual tunnel.
No, you went and climbed.
Yes.
You worked for that icon.
Yeah. And I think we hiked a lot of that together.
No,
okay. Yeah. I don't think we even connected during that one.
We connected at the block party, or was it
connected at the block party? There was one of the GeoCoin events. I think we connected,
mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it was Sunny and Sandy that I walked to the cache with, and then, man, there were so many people that I ran into. I can't even remember. Who all I ran into at the event, but it was amazing. Just all of the people that you ran into and
mm-hmm.
hung out with. But let's move on to a interesting story from Trexer Zero. Let me bring this up again. He sent this article that's really funny from Canada that a bunch of people have been trespassing on Canadian military bases to play Pokemon Go.
And since they're Canadian, they just say sorry, eh? And it's okay.
The especially interesting thing is that they were sharing some of the emails back and forth, but they actually had kids playing on tanks and as part of this.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm envisioning a lot worse, but it sounds like it was just the tanks at museums, so not such a big problem. But this is kind of the sad side of the whole thing, I guess, is what's going on that people are thinking it's okay to trespass and play a game.
There's one email here that says, please advise the commissioners at apparently Fort Frontenac is both a Poke Gym and a Poke Stop. I will be completely honest that I do not have an idea what that is, wrote Major Jeff Monahan.
Oh, nice.
The game's premise seems to be going to Pokestops/gyms to collect Pokemons. We should almost hire a 12-year-old to help us out with this. In which they were able to find 5 of these in the range of the road itself.
Yeah, and this is sounding like this was really, really around the launch time. It's not as recent as we might think.
The intelligence advisory that's shown in the webpage there is from July 15th, 2016.
Yeah, which is pretty early on.
Oh, yeah, 10 days after launch, kids on tanks.
Right. Yes. And I don't get the impression that they still are having the problem, but it's just that this information came to light. Probably it was declassified or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. And Wet Coaster says that at CFB Halifax, they asked Niantic to move some stops and change a stop to a gym. Interesting. That was publicly accessible. So that I find interesting. You know, they're working with Niantic, because what we had and we talked about it on the show when this first came out was a lot of land managers and property owners asking for it to be moved flat out, no questions asked, no two ways about it.
Well, there was a park here right on the waterfront that had several Pokestops and gyms, and you would go there on the weekends and evenings, and people would be walking counterclockwise. The entire mass of people, 1,000 people, would just kind of be walking, staring at their phones in a slow counterclockwise circle around this park. Because you could go from one to the other, to the other, to the other. And then you would hear somebody say, oh, this Pokemon popped up over here, and everybody would run.
Wow. That's surprising that they get everyone to go in the same direction like that.
Yeah. I mean, it was the funny
human nature.
Yeah. And then they changed it to paid parking, and the city has just raked in the income because people will still go there. There's not too many places where you can, walk a short path and get 20 plus stops.
No, definitely not. So, good for everyone, because now it's more revenue and the people are getting outside and, finding it. But let's go caching instead. Put some caches in there, turn them over.
Well, Yeah. You could probably do it, and the Pokemon players would never even notice you.
No, probably not. Or we might have a new GIF film. We'll move on to actually, hang on. And says businesses can put for a gym to be placed on their premise, and some ask for gyms to be removed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. My son and I, there was a group of us when we were doing Pokemon, went to a public park, clearly labeled public park, but the woman, because it was in front of an apartment complex, claimed that was the apartment's property and you're trespassing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this sign over here says it's public. Well, that's not right.
Yeah, we've always dealt with those crazy landowners and geocaching.
That's true.
So we'll move on to an article in The Verge about the new California consumer privacy law.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting.
And the reason I put this in here is I've heard from multiple sources at multiple places that this one is making GDPR look like child's play.
Yes.
And for anyone who doesn't remember, GDPR was the thing that had everyone scrambling last year to change everything about the way that they're handling all of their customer data. Well, the California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA, went into effect on the 1st. And at that point, no one still really even knew exactly what was going to happen. There's a 6-month grace period until they actually have to comply. One of the interesting things in this was a quote from Reese Hirsch, co-head of Morgan Lewis's privacy and cybersecurity practice. And I'm assuming that's a he the way it's spelled, told The Verge, if you thought the GDPR was bumpy, the CCPA is going to be a real roller coaster. This is a complex set of new rules, which are still a work in progress. So it basically says that if your company buys or sells data on at least 50,000 California residents each year, you have to disclose to those residents what you're doing with the data, and they can request that you not sell it. Consumers can also request companies bound by the CCPA delete all their personal data. And as the Wall Street Journal reported, websites with third-party tracking are supposed to add "Do not sell my personal information" button that, if clicked, prohibits the site from sending data about the consumer to any third parties, including advertisers.
That is amazing. But
this is going to really, really hit Facebook hard.
Right. What gets me, though, is it's, if your company buys or sells data on at least 50,000 California residents. Now, if
that's like nothing.
That's nothing. If it's a web page with a cookie that's tracking data, how do they know if you're a California resident or not if you don't log in?
Right. And that's one of the things is the way that a lot of these laws are written, you have to comply with it, period.
Right. And I would love that, but I'm not a California resident. So, if I click a button that says "Do not sell my data," do not sell my personal information, they're not bound to that because I'm not a California resident.
Yeah, but they're not going to take that chance. They're likely going to do it. The thing that worries me more is companies that are probably the more questionable, like Facebook, have the resources where they do know whether you're a California resident or not. So they can ignore this for everyone outside of California and only do it for California residents. But there is a Canadian law that's similar going into effect, but it's basically, as I understand it, GDPR kind of regulation.
GDPR.
It's nowhere near as cumbersome. And asked what effect this will have on geocaching.com. They are intending to, according to the interview that we heard with Brian on the Inside Geocaching podcast, they are looking into it and they're going to take care of it. But as I understand it, that's one of the reasons that we lost the audit logs on premium caches was because of these privacy laws.
Yeah, GDPR.
I think it was actually GDPR that did it, but the California one.
That was a lot of work for, let's just say, geocaching.com. I mean, yes, it's a lot of work for the entire industry with lawyers involved, but for just geocaching.com, that was, I can't tell you how many man hours of effort to make sure they were GDPR compliant.
Yeah. And it was a huge expense for a lot of companies. And don't get me wrong, I think a lot of this is good and it's late in its coming, but government never keeps up with industry.
Government is reactive.
Yeah. And in many ways, that's a good thing. Because if they were too proactive, you come up with bad laws like the Communication Decency Act. Total disaster. Chris is asking, so here's a question. What if you are a part-time California resident? Good luck with that one, California. Yeah, they don't really care.
No.
This has nothing to do with the actual individuals. It has to do with the population. So if something was breached, you as a citizen aren't going to see any of whatever the fines are. It all goes back to California.
So I like this idea. I think we should be aware of anytime our data is bought and sold. However,
yeah, it's a good idea. The ambiguity in it is a bad idea. And it's going to create problems. And the timeline that they've offered is bad.
Yeah. Well,
so we'll see what ends up happening. But Houston, Texas Dave says that cookie talk is making him hungry. Does anyone have any milk?
Cookie Monster have milk. You could go out and buy your own domain. That's what I've done. And I have unlimited email addresses on that domain. So every time I register a new email address, say with a business, I put the business name. Let's say it's GeoGearheads at my domain. That way I know exactly if I start getting, let's say certain mail enhancement emails to that email address, I know, they sold my email address, and I turn it off.
Yeah, there was a method with not just with Gmail, but Gmail was the one that I remember using, where you could do, I think it was a plus after your email address, and they didn't allow pluses in the email addresses, but pluses are allowed in email. So anytime they saw the plus, that was the end of your email address, and you could put anything you wanted. So it could be like Daryl W4 plus mail enhancement, and that would be a trigger to tell you that, mail enhancement got your leaked their list, and now you can throw it in the garbage. So similar concept,
right?
And didn't require anything extra. The problem is it's a known tactic, and when they sell the list, they just strip that out now.
Exactly.
All right.
We'll see. I like the idea. We'll see how well it's implemented and how well it works outside of California.
Yeah. Well, and it's going to have unintended consequences, and we're going to probably lose some of the features of our favorite websites that we didn't intend to. But in the end, I think we'll be better off as consumers. Moving on, we've got news from GPS World that China's alternative to GPS should be complete by the middle of this year.
What?
So BeiDou, we've been talking about them launching these for quite a long time.
Yes, they have.
Launched the last 2 satellites back in December on the 16th, and we actually have the story about that in there as well. So they will have their system fully up and running by the middle of this year, which gives us yet another system to pay attention to. And they're saying that it's going to last in its present form until the next major upgrade in 2035. So 15 years from now, they're going to do some upgrades to the system, but they'll have full coverage, which is pretty impressive.
That's really impressive that they're sending up a chunk of electronics into space, into an incredibly hostile environment. And in 15 years, they're thinking about an upgrade. Consider that with your next phone, Daryl.
Well, we've had this discussion before. It's incredible at how well the satellites that we've been using have worked well past their service life. And it's allowed them to extend the development, really, because technology keeps moving.
That's
so
right.
We're ending up with these GPS-3 satellites that are so far above the 2Fs that it's impressive. And this is the new system from China.
Right.
So I don't know if we'll end up getting access to it because it is China, but I do kind of hope so.
Yeah.
It can't hurt us because it doesn't, as far as I've heard, it doesn't have any negative impacts on GPS. There is another quick blurb that we wanted to mention that we didn't get to in the last randomized show, but GPS World has a link to CBS News going inside the GPS operations. So it's a cool look inside what makes GPS tick.
Neat. I'm going to have to go. I haven't had a chance to watch that yet. I'm going to do that.
I haven't actually watched.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. This. Now I look at the screen. I thought it was a video. It's not.
Yeah, I watched part of it, and then I had to get back to work. So
it was on the CBS Sunday morning show, December 1st.
But it does look like a good thing, a good overview, and not a whole lot of depth, but interesting to watch and get a feel for.
Daryl, what about this next one?
Yeah, next one I want to get to, because this is just fun, and we're going to have to cut it off after this because we're running along. this comes to us from Core 77, which is a interesting design blog that I subscribe to. They have a Swingset-powered phone charger at several Dutch train stations now. So the quote goes that at the request of the Dutch Railways, creative agency ID 310 designed a novel phone charger for the Eurotech Central Station. It's a swing set that they call Play for Power.
Mm-hmm.
This adult strength piece of playground equipment turns kinetic energy from the swings into juice dispensing through the charging cables. You might think, wouldn't that take too long to charge? Won't people worry about missing their train? Actually, we see that people are willing to take a train later because they like the swing. The Dutch Railway spokesperson, Gert Kolen, told Holland's Metro News. The swings are used by young and old, and there are queues several times a day. Several months after the first Play for Power unit was launched, it became so popular that the Dutch Railway announced plans to install them in all major train stations in their country.
MC3 Cat says, get a bunch of Dutch children hyped up on Dutch chocolate and let them go on the swing set. You could probably, power the city with that. Brilliant, because it'll, charge to the lights.
I was thinking, how awesome would this be? And we've seen some of the projects where they're doing stuff like this, but how awesome would this be to take all of the playground equipment and put the generators in there and do nothing but solar and kinetic power to handle all of the power needs for a given park.
Right.
All of the night lights, all of the path lights, all of that kind of stuff.
Can you imagine what the merry-go-round would generate?
Yeah, I've seen people do it before. It's actually not as good as you'd expect.
Well, it's very spotty. But, if they can put that into a battery bank and hold it for later. You'd have to have some kind of battery backup, which is where the real inefficiencies lie. Mm-hmm.
But the swing sets were actually doing more to generate power. Anne's asking how long to charge a phone. I don't know that I saw anything about the.
Apparently, they're willing to take a later train to charge their phone.
Yeah, and they're waiting in line to do it. It's mostly just fun. But
for 2 hours, and there'd be nothing wrong with that.
No, but I think it only takes you have the charge time of the phone that's a factor.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's even hitting that limit. So you're not over powering the phone. But I wouldn't be too surprised if they have some kind of capacitor or something to smooth that out too, because otherwise you'd be getting some weird
indoor. I'm looking at the photo.
These are all indoors, and that's one of the things.
Yeah,
they don't need the weather sealing, so that's going to be more efficient than if they had to build something that would take the weather. They don't have to deal with the extreme cold, the extreme hot. It's indoors and climate controlled, no rain, no anything like that. But yeah, I just love this concept.
The agency's name, I'm sorry, just is
ID 310.
Yeah, ID 310. You know what the ID 10T error is, right?
Yeah.
That's the first thing I thought.
Well, and I'm not sure that it isn't related.
Okay.
I don't know, Dutch at all. So I did catch that. Tom had the interesting problem of if we have these swing sets, it means only caching within range of a swing set.
That could be.
Well, here's what you do. You get the external battery case, plug that in, go find the cache while you let the kids go swing, come back, pick up the kids and the battery case, and now your battery case is topped off. Charge up your phone and go to the next cache. Do the same thing, right? Sounds like a good plan to me. No, I don't know that we're ever going to see anything like this in practice, but at least people are playing with it. And I think it's cool. And I hope that we do start seeing some clever use of this, but it really does bring me back to when I think it was in Germany. People were playing with the kinetic sidewalks.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And it was tied to some of the kinetic dance floors for the discotheques that they were doing with that stuff. That was really intriguing. All of this stuff, I think, is amazing. Anytime we get more use out of our energy that we're already expending, I think is great news.
I'm really having a hard time searching for this outside of that article. I'm curious to see what somebody else has said about Play for Power.
Well, it's too common a name that you're probably going to have some issues with it. And it is Dutch. So I'm not sure how much of it is actually written in English. Even though, as I recall,
translated the site well enough.
Yeah, there's doing a lot of the articles in English because it is, a very international country. NGS sometimes too says it keeps people active, which is great news. All right. We are quickly hitting that 1 hour mark, so we want to wrap this one up. Thanks again, everyone, for watching and listening. And send in all of your comments to this kind of stuff, because we are going to do another randomized show soon, and we can tackle all those in. If we get enough, maybe we even push next week's episode and do it next week. Send those to geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com, and check our show notes at cachemaniacs.com as well. But any feedback, any articles, send those to geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com, and we'll drop those on the next show. Well, not necessarily next show, but a future show.
A future randomized episode. Until then, make sure you check the Cachemaniacs website at cachemaniacs.com for more on the GeoGearheads, including show notes for this and all of our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners. So leave us feedback by emailing geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com or through the many channels of social media. Your support helps keep the Cachemaniacs shows coming. Please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the Cachemaniacs shows. GeoGearheads is produced by Chris Umfenauer and Daryl Wattenberg. This show's copyright 2020 by Daryl Wattenberg. All rights reserved.
Cash with the Cachemaniacs.